So we just got finished with my 15th annual conference. Thank you everyone who attended, especially my Millionaire students. They've made it in life. They don't have to come. They don't have to share their tips, but they want to. And we have a beautiful community with the challenge where people want to pay it forward because we all remember what it's like in the beginning, how difficult it is, how confusing it is. If you click the link below, you can apply for my challenge, but be dedicated. In this video, I actually highlight and ask questions of 4 of my top challenge students. Jack Kellogg, who's now over 12 million. Kyle Williams, who's closing in on 5 million. Mariana, my first female millionaire student. And then also last but certainly not least, Bryce, who just crossed over $1 million a few months ago. I love these guys and girls. They have such a great attitude. They're so humble. And this Q&A I think is really useful just to show, how much they struggled in the beginning. You might not realize it, how far they've come, how much hard work they've put in. None of my millionaire students or I are like math geniuses or really even like that exceptionally intelligent. I want you to be real. I want to be real with you. Look, I just messed up. We'll keep that in. I want you to be real. I'll be real with you. We're just average people with above average work ethics. And so when you watch this Q&A, understand they're not just bragging about their success. They want you to understand what it took to get there. And me, them, you, all of us want more success for more people. It's the best feeling in the world. This is why I love my job. Again, click the link below to apply for my challenge. Be dedicated and watch this Q&A with 4 of my top students. Really excited for this group up here. These guys and girls have done so much. They put in so much time and effort. And really, I can't stress it enough. They can't stress it enough. It is work ethic. It's not how much money you start with. It's not your intelligence level. It's not your background. It's using the data, using the tools that you have at your disposal, using the market, using the opportunity, putting it all together, and really capitalizing when there are solid opportunities. And that's what I'm saying. Literally right now, I don't see any truly great trades. What do you guys think? We're going to just go down this line here. My first question is, how often are you guys trading? What are you doing in this market? What do you see people doing right or wrong?
In this market, especially since September for me, I've really dialed back the number of trades I'm taking and tried to once again focus on quality. I'd say I'm taking between 2 and 3 trades a week right now. I've tried to really dial down what I'm looking for. The types of, again, pre-market high breaks are really important for me. And trading in the afternoon when there's follow through on the long side, but I really have dialed back and tried to get more specific and detail oriented.
Yeah, fall is usually the most difficult time period for not only myself, but most traders I've talked to and experienced. Specifically, August, September are usually my worst months. October can be hit or miss, but this October for me has been tough. The whole squeeze with like TPST, OPGN, that brought a lot of opportunity that I unfortunately didn't really capture as much as I would have liked. But it did
get squeezed?
I did not get squeezed. I was profitable from, thankfully, but in terms of how much I thought I could have made, I didn't. And then the last week and a half, I've just been kind of shot myself up. This week, I would have been proud to say I didn't take a trade. I said I didn't. I didn't take a trade Monday, didn't take a trade Tuesday. Sadly, regret trading Wednesday. Traded yesterday, regret that too. And didn't trade today. So we're 3 out of 5. But down like $5,000 in the week. And I mean, normally in normal markets, I would trade maybe 2 trades a day on average, 0 to 2. But again, in slower times like the fall, I'd love to be less than 30 or 20.
Yeah, September was my worst month of the year. Kind of got too aggressive on the weed stocks. Just kind of expecting them to go higher and also shorting CGC and getting squeezed out pretty much at the dead top before it came in. So that led to a few other pretty bad trades for me. So September was pretty bad. And October, it's been a better month because whenever I take big losses or whenever I take any sort of inconsistent period, it really gets me back on a very focused mindset and very risk oriented. And that's when I trade the best. And I'm using that momentum. In October, I've made everything back so far and in the green in terms of my losses in September. And what I've just been doing is shorting the day one gap ups that are gapping up over 100%, have dilution. We're just not seeing a lot of follow through. The market's down. The statistics that I'll share with you is that as of a few days ago, 78% of the gap ups have closed below the open price. So quite a good edge this month. It could be very different next month. That's what you always have to keep in mind. But with the market, it's just ebbs and flows. And right now, that's the edge. And it could be very different in the next month. There's no multi-day setups that I really see. I saw an ICU, it gapped up today. My input on that was all the swing shorts were swinging it for the offering because of the S1 form that they could raise $10 million with a toxic offering, most likely. They have $13,000 in the bank. So it made sense for them to want to offer, but they withdrew the S1 form. So all the shorts ended up covering into the after hours, and it spiked from, I think, 60 or 70 to $1.20 as the high. And then all the shorts were out, and the longs got excited, and there was just no more shorts to cover, and that one ended up failing. So that was my input on that one. And there was another good gapping crap today. APLM opened up at $1.40, long crowded again, and just it tanked like 30% at market open. So another one that was really good, but that is my input on the market right now.
Yeah, for me, pretty much this whole year, I've adapted to, I didn't want to get into very emotional trades or like setting myself back a lot because it's not really the hottest market that we've had. So that was pretty much my goal for this year. And I have been trading for the first an hour or 2 hours of the market. And I just know that every time I trade in the afternoon, it just isn't working for me. So I've adapted to just trading in the mornings, taking my gains, and trying to focus on the most volatile stocks so that I know that they have enough volume and I can, execute a trade in the first 2 hours for 10, 15% and kind of just take it and just repeat that day in and day out for the whole year. And that's just what I've been focused on.
No, those are great answers. I want you to understand, like, these are some of the most successful traders that you will ever meet. It's incredible to see Mari's closing in on 2 million, Jack's closing in on 13 million, Kyle's closing in on 5 million, Bryce just crossed 1 million. And these are people who had literally just a few $1,000s to their name a few years ago. So they have really, just sucked all the juice out of the market, right? Like if you want like fresh squeezed juice, you just like suck that juice and you got it all with the pulp and everything. You like that analogy? Kyle's a vegetarian.
I love milking the cow.
You milk the cow.
I like whole milk.
Whatever works. I'm sorry to create tension between you and Kyle. He's looking away from you as you talk about it.
I'll take the almond milk.
We have almond milk out there. A case can be made for whole milk, almond milk. Almond milk is actually heavy in water consumption. But long story short, okay? You guys capitalize right now, and this is for everyone. There's just not much to do. So if you try to force something, a lot of you have come up to me being like, I'm studying, I'm just not seeing the plays that much. It's not you, it's the market. And sometimes you have to adapt. Have you guys been through this? You've been trading and learning for several years. Have you seen slow times before? How have you adapted?
Yeah, really slow times. Specifically, me and Jack were really predominantly OTC traders when we first started. And Q1 of 2019 was really good. I think we both had new quarter best years or new best quarters. And then summer 2019 came around and OTCs just died. Very similar to how they are now. Not as dead as they are now. Like now they're really, really dead, unfortunately. But it was pretty close, and we had to adapt, like literally. And that's what drew me to Nasdaqs. I eventually kind of had to almost in some ways go through another learning curve with listed stocks. And by the end of that year, 2019, was when I really truly felt like I got it. And then we got lucky with kind of the COVID market that came, and all these pharmaceutical Nasdaqs were just running hot, thinking they were going to create the next vaccine. So it worked out well, but I wouldn't have done that had I not used that slow period to adapt and not not wish like, oh, why are OTCs here? Let me just keep trading OTCs, like kind of trying to squeeze water out of a rock, right? Not instead of juice. And adapt. So whether that's studying, whether that's practicing and learning other things, or just learning more about when the hot markets are hot, like that's what you should be doing. You shouldn't be looking and forcing trades. It's very counterintuitive, but it's necessary.
I mean, I'll add to that real quick. When there's a slow market, it's actually beneficial. Like if you look at the past of my 30 plus millionaire students, they all started during slow markets. That's when you have more time to study. You have more time to really understand this stuff. In a fast market, there's trades coming nonstop. If you're not prepared, you're probably going to miss too many. You're going to have FOMO. You're going to chase. It's better to really fine tune your process right now. Or, also, like look at Jack. Like Jack's looking jacked. Can you stand up for a second? Dude, give him a round of applause. Look at Jack.
My
He's getting
2019
healthy.
shirt.
What?
Shirt from 2019. This actually was the conference in 2019 when I first made $100,000, and I met Mari actually. And,
Yeah!
so decided to pull it out. But yeah, I've been taking time off trading this year specifically, and have the least amount of capital in my trading account because it's not worth it to me. It's not worth it. A lot of successful people that have made money in the markets, it's kind of a famous saying, but it's like you only need to get rich once, right? And I've done the seemingly impossible, as Tim has said, and I don't want to give my money back. Like I don't want to show up and be trying to make and lose $100,000 every single day, which I could with the capital that I have, but just invest it in lower risk stuff and let passive income come in and still be able to trade with a $100,000 account. I mean, this month I've had a good month, like I've said, being very disciplined. Started with 80,000 in an account, grew it to about 180,000 during the TPST week, wired out 65,000, and then grew it another 30K or so, or 40K, and then wired out another 50,000, back down. I think at that point I was down near 80, and then I've grown it from 80 this week to 140, and I keep paying myself, and it's a very different approach than what it was before for me, where in the hot market it was just compound, and risk more, and that's how I was able to grow my account so quickly and so aggressively. But in this market, it's about protecting my gains and playing it safe. And there's still opportunity, but it's risky sometimes, and your edge just isn't as good as it was during the bubble.
Bryce, you have an answer?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that I remember I started learning to trade in a slow market, and I didn't really know what a hot market looked like because I hadn't been through one. Went through the COVID market. It was crazy. It was, obviously just a massive bull run. Then 2021 came, and I did better during the slow market when it started than I expected to, until things just really hit the brakes. And I had a massive, I think I had a $65,000 red month. And that really quickly told me, all right, I got to dial back size. And during a slow market, it allows, like I think Jack was saying earlier, it really allows you to take it back. And when you're losing more than you're winning, for me anyways, it helps me get recentered, refocused, and a little bit more disciplined. It's just sometimes you do have to take one loss that you didn't want to take to have that lesson, and all of a sudden you look at the market and it's a lot slower than you might have thought.
For me, this year, I mean, in terms of follow through, it might be like the slowest one. So it definitely, some adapting needed to like take place, but I feel like the first year was the only year that I was just studying. So obviously in terms of trading, that was definitely really slow for me, but it was really good because it allowed me to, understand everything and take everything in. And this is probably a really good year to start studying as well, since the framework, it's working, but only sometimes. So it's not like it's consistently being shown every day. So this is probably a really good year to study, which is what I did also in 2019.
Answers. Take us back just for a second to your first year and your second year, because a lot of people here are in their first and second year. You guys are all millionaires now, living the life, eating caviar on yachts, and maybe not Kyle. Kyle can have cauliflower with fresh made hummus, but whatever appetizer you want, you can afford now, right? Take us back to your first and second year. Were there differences between your first and second year, and just to try to explain the mindset of how you kept moving forward, even if you might have struggled?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that I realized really fast is you don't know what you don't know, and the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know anything. Right? You get really you get really
Round of applause for that. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Bryce doesn't know it, but he just quoted Larry King. I have a video on my Instagram where I asked Larry King, "What's your the late great Larry King?" I asked him, "What's his life lesson?" He's like, "When you don't know, you don't know."
It's true. It really is true. And it takes, so, I mean, it might not necessarily take a hot market to start realizing that. It takes enough of those losses and lessons to make you question why you're losing in the first place. And that's not something that comes overnight. That's why it is extremely difficult to go from zero to way up here in your first or second year. It's not because it's impossible to take winning trades that would get you there. It's those losers that make you question why you're losing, and then you need to keep working on removing those factors.
What did you do year 1 and year 2? Where were you at, roughly?
I was probably down, by end of year 2, down 3,000 or 4,000.
What kept you going when you're down $4,000 and you're trying to learn, you're trying to trade, but it's not clicking?
Well, it's the possibility, and that same possibility that made me think that in 1 year I might be able to do it, right? You still see those runners, and you're still sometimes in those runners taking big wins. That possibility is enough to, I think, keep anyone in the market. When you see something like TPST, what did that go from? Like 24 cents to $11. That's
2 days.
That's insane. So like those kinds of opportunities kept me around, and I'm so glad they did, because now they're the ones that we try to really focus our attention to and try to find out ways, those different factors that might lead to a squeeze like that, and try to cut out those losers.
Yeah, Bryce nailed it on the head there with you don't know what you don't know. There's like stages to becoming with any endeavor. Like you don't know what you don't know, you know what you don't know, you know what you know, and then the highest form is like you don't know what you know. Like you become subconsciously good and you don't even know why.
Whoa, this is getting philosophical. I like it.
And so when you're in the beginning, you don't know what you don't know. You are the most vulnerable because you are just a little puppy in a war zone. What's the analogy you use?
I would say babe in the woods.
Yeah, you're just like, you have no idea where you are and what you're doing.
Little piece of broccoli in a big farm.
Sure.
You can't see past your little friends. You're asking the carrots and the eggplant for advice. They can't talk.
So when you're in that position, this is why I really want to harp on what I said yesterday. The last answer I gave at the, I guess, last panel was your first year should be to survive. Like you really should use that time to just learn as much as you possibly can without completely losing all your money, because that's the time to go from not knowing what you don't know to knowing what you don't know. And once you know what you don't know, then you focus on that, and then you get to the next stage of knowing, what you know, which is profitability.
What were your numbers year 1, year 2?
So year 1, I lost about $4,300, which is like, what is it, like 70% of my account or so. The next full year, I made that all back to roughly about break-even-ish, maybe a little up a couple grand at that point. And then year after that, 30 grand, 90, 700,000, 2.1 million, and then 470, and now 800.
800,000.
Yeah, 800,000. Yeah.
Round of applause.
So the first two, doesn't
Sucked.
seem like much. Yeah, they were the P&L wise most insignificant, but in terms of knowledge that got me to where these next few years were going to take me, it was everything.
Foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful.
But that's what those years are, for sure.
I highlighted you, Jack, with your curls when you were depressed after 18 months, but you had your hair banging. So how did you keep your hair so perky, even though inside you were dying?
A lot of depression.
Did you use curlers?
Huh?
Did you use curlers to get that?
No, I used the natural stress.
So it's natural.
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to go back to the slide with Jack's curls in his first. Oh, there it is. There we go.
That's
Give him a
me,
round of
yeah.
applause. Stress leads to perfect hair. Now he's de-stressed and he has less hair, but he has more money. How did you feel in this picture? What month was this picture taken? Because you listed the first 18 months, not pretty. What month was that hair pick?
That was 117, May 18th, negative 7 grand.
So that was your Tinder profile before you met Mary at the concert, at the conference.
Exactly right. What's the question here, though? What am I supposed to talk about?
Year one, what did you learn? Year two, what did you learn? How'd you keep going?
Year one, I realized that I sucked. And that's why you see 3 months off there into year two, because I just realized what I was doing with trading with a small account, chasing spikes, chasing stocks that are spiking because I think they're going to spike more, was the worst possible strategy, because through my stats, it showed me that I was winning like 26% of the time if I bought a stock that was spiking. So I learned that. I also learned that in July and August, I could have green months, even if they were tiny. And that came through short selling, right? But what I was doing was I was short selling safely. And that was the key. And then you can see there in the beginning of 2018, I was like, okay, I've learned a bunch in 2017. I've put in 12 hours of work every single day. So in 2018, let's start going for it and making the profits, right? So I started with much more money. And January, February, and March were kind of scratches, but there was a lot of opportunity and I was learning a lot, even though I was not necessarily profiting the way that I wanted to. I was, in the right place. It just wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right risk management. It wasn't the right execution, right? And then April came around and I made $4,000 and I was like, wow, I can do this. I'm gonna make a lot of money. Let's go. I really, what I did in April was I just said I waited for the best opportunity. It was CANN. It was a classic first red day. It ran up 3 days in a row. And once it was going red, I was like, I'm just going to hit it with everything I can get, basically. And I shorted a large position, and it panicked, and I covered it, and I covered way too soon, and it probably could have been like a $6,000 or $7,000 win. So then May and June came along, and I learned that you just got to press it on the big plays, like screw all the other stuff. That's what I thought. And essentially then in May, a big play came around. It was a terrible play, Turtle Beach, yeah, and it was up from like 2 to 20 or something, and I was like, this is so extended, and it had a huge shooting star candle. If you guys don't know what that is, it's when a stock spikes up from the open, and then it comes all the way back down, and there's a huge wick on the chart. So it's a pattern that there should be a lot of resistance, and the next day it probably should have a first red day. So that's what I thought would happen, and I got short, and the problem was it was an earnings winner, which I didn't understand how bad it was to short real companies that are an earnings winner. It doesn't really matter what the chart pattern is because you're going against the fundamental idea of the company actually having good earnings, which is the worst thing to short. And I ended up losing like $7,000 and wiped away all my profits. And I got back red, and then I was like, screw this. And then I was like, I'm only going to do OTC. And then CVSI came around in June, and I was like, oh, this is my next can here. This is great. And then it was gapping down after like a few green days. And I did the same thing where I shorted a big position right at market open. But this time, instead of it going down, it went straight up. And I didn't know what to do because I didn't know how to fill on OTCs. I was a deer in headlights, and it went up, and then I lost another $5,000. And then the next few months, I was like, okay, I need to stop trading big size. I'm going to blow up all my money. So I sized back down. And then I was like, short selling is not for me. It's not good to be aggressive on short selling, especially when you're a newbie. So I started to go long again, and that's when I found success.
What did you do during those 3 months that you took off? Look at the markets? Did you just like not trade or what?
Yeah, that's when I was in the mall selling the pillows. So I was watching the market every day on my $200 Dell laptop, and I witnessed like LFIN. I witnessed Roland making a bunch of money on all the Bitcoin sympathy plays. I was watching Huddy do short selling of first red days again. And I saw a lot of opportunity in those 3 months, so I was a little sad, but I was definitely still studying every single day.
How did those pillows sell?
Not good.
You still have them?
No, I sold them all.
How about you, Mari? How was your year 1 and year 2?
Year 1 was really in 2018. I mean, I still had to build up like the passion for it. So I really started to build up the passion. Well, I started studying and I wasn't very like into it right off the bat. And then in 2019, I came to the conference, and that's when I pretty much saw like we all start at like the same exact place that you guys are in right now. So I mean, it just seemed a lot more real to me, and it just was very motivating when I came to the conference, and that's when I really wanted to get things started. And then I mean, I started losing for the first like 6 months. I was down 2,500. And I really found out when I started looking into all the platforms, because I didn't even know how to like what I really was doing, and I was just over trading OTCs like crazy. And that's when, you know, I found out that I was actually down for the first 6 months, and that's when I started to turn things back around, because I started focusing on the strategies that were really going to work for me. So I focused in on mostly like panic dip buys, and I took maybe like 1,000 trades of like 1,000 trades in that whole year itself, and that just started building the data up for me. And I started to really find out what I was comfortable with. And only after I took those 1,000 trades, when I was up 100,000 on them, that's when I was able to exponentially grow, because then that January and February, after we had the TSNP, which I traded every single day consistently, so I was pretty comfortable with the strategy. That's when I knew that I was ready to exponentially grow that strategy, and I was able to cross $1 million in that February of 2021. So then I started adapting and just started consistently trading bigger size, because I knew that I was comfortable with what I was doing.
Beautiful. And it was also recently your birthday, I hear. So I want everyone to sing happy birthday to Mari. She loves being in the spotlight. She just turned, what, 23? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mariana. Happy birthday to you. Yeah! That's cool. It's really amazing to see what they've done in a few years. And, you know, big footnote on all their presentations, they were ready to capitalize on the mania of 2020 and 2021. If there's no mania of 2020, 21, take away, what would you say, half your gains, 3/4 of your gains? I don't even know. Like I mean, Jack said it during his talk just a few minutes ago. When there's a good play, when there's a good pattern, that's when you press it. Right now, no great patterns, no great plays, take your foot off the pedal. And it's a very difficult thing to do, especially if you have some wins and you feel like you're getting in the groove and you want that feeling again, you know, like your first big trade. Take us through your first big trade. How did you feel? Then what did you do afterwards?
Trying to remember my first big trade.
Pass the mic. Pass the mic.
Yeah.
I remember this one very. This was my first $10,000 win, and
Me too. This is the same trade.
yeah. So Kyle and I, we really focused on pump and dumps. Come here, 2019, because I learned how to go long, and like I said, after that, all that was going on, I bothered Kyle for hours on end about learning how to actually safely short sell.
Remember how he said he doesn't find stocks to scan? He would hit me up for a lot more than stocks to scan.
Yeah, so Kyle's definitely had the biggest impact on me in terms of short selling, and I think Kyle's probably gonna tell the same story, but it was RIVX, and I think it's still my profile picture on Profitly. It's like it's the chart behind that caricature of me. But we were shorting the pump and dumps, and we were making good money on them in 2019. And in December of, what was it? November, December of 2019, I was probably up 100,000-ish, 120, 130,000. And we got short this pump and dump RIVX, it was just every single day it was up like 3%, 4%, 5%. And we were slowly shorting it because the shares were very few and far between. So we were shorting RIVX slowly, Kyle and I. And unfortunately for us, we shorted we shorted too early. We shorted like 7 days into the promotion. And it probably went like another 8 days. So let's say we shorted at like $4 or $5. And it wasn't a small position for me. I probably had 2,500 shares or something, 2,300 shares, something around that, from like $5, $4 or $5. And it went up to like 7, and I was down like $5,000. And I only had at this time probably 40,000-ish in my short selling account. And then it cracked one day. It cracked from $7. It went from 7 to like 3 or 4 within like 15 minutes. And Kyle and I and a few of our other friends who took this trade, we still have this running joke, because the stock actually started to bounce back up very illiquidly, and it bounced maybe from like 4 to like 470. And this was when it was snowing out, and I had sent a picture like, relax guys, like I cracked a beer open, like I was celebrating the win. And we still have like the screenshot of like when we feel like we're about to get squeezed, it's like, crack a beer and relax, man. So it started bouncing back to like 470, and I decided to go skiing outside. Like I had built like a little terrain park or whatever in my backyard. So I went outside for a few hours, and then when I came back in, the stock had rebounded all the way to $7, all the way back. And it actually closed down like 1% after being down like 50 or 60%. So at that point, we were probably like 20 days into the promotion. And then the next few days, the stock would have a quick morning dip, and I was like, oh, come on, go down. And then it would come back up, go down, come back up. It would do this for the next 5 days. And eventually it started to break out over the highs. And that's when it started to get really scary. And it ended up breaking out over $7, went to 8, went to 9, went to 10, went to 11. And at this point, it had been like a 2-month promotion. And the chart it looked like a complete, like, most scammy thing I've ever seen. Most scammy thing I'd ever seen at that time. And at that point, I was down about 15 grand. It was going to be my biggest loss ever. And I had about like $26,300 in my total equity left. And if I dropped below if I lost another $1,400 unrealized, I was going to get bought in, and I would have gotten like liquidated, because once you go under 25,000 with a short selling brokerage, high net worth, like any type of dash trader, you get liquidated usually. So I was at 26,300, and then what ended up happening was I tried to crash the stock myself by buying it and selling it. Like I was just trying to like play with it a little bit and just like hoping something would happen. And the stock ended up closing like pretty weak that day. And I was like, it's going to crash tomorrow. Don't worry, guys. Like, it's going to crash. And the next day, I ended up opening up on a small gap down, and it tanked from 11 all the way down to $4. And I recovered all my losses, and I was up a little bit of money. And then the next day, it bounced very small. And then the day after, it gapped up, and they halted it for the SEC halted it, and it was they said it was a complete scam, and it's worthless, and it's a fraud, and it opened up down at 25 cents, and I covered at 20 cents, and I made like 11 grand or 12 grand. So
round of applause.
That was my defining moment. Yeah.
What a journey.
Yep. And that's what set me up, because that was at the end of 2019. So you can imagine that trade gave me the confidence, that trade gave me the account size. And my account size was somewhere around 50, 60,000, something like that. And that was the start of 2020. And then from there, it skyrocketed.
Beautiful. How about you, Mari? What was your first trade? Or Kyle, do you have the same trade?
You mean, are you asking first big trade or just most memorable?
First big trade. Or most memorable, you choose.
Yeah, I mean, the RAVX was also my first 10-figure or 5-figure win.
10-figure, calm down.
Yeah.
Wait a
Five-figure
few
win.
years. 2030.
$10,000
Yeah.
win. Yeah, I mean, I always remember my first 4-figure win. I don't remember my first $300 win or $100 win. The most memorable trade for me though was also with Jack, ironically. What is it? LHDX. This was a company that was called Lucid Inc. And this was around the time Lucid Motors was becoming public. And they'd pretty much taken advantage of that and put out, I never found proof, but my suspicion was they had put out some promotional material, whether it be through Google Ads or emails, saying, you know, Lucid's becoming public, like get in before it's here. And like they're saying that their Lucid Inc. is Lucid Motors. So the stock,
mistaken identity on purpose.
Right, purposely. And the stock goes from, I think, 50 cents to $6 in like 4 or 5 days. And on the top day, it had pulled back from like 6 to 5:30. And then in the middle of the day, essentially a PR came out saying, yeah, we're not Lucid Motors. We're
And
Lucid
it
Inc.
crashed.
Yeah, and and then it proceeded to crash from 5:30 all the way down to I think $1, and then 50 cents the next day. And me and Jack had both shorted at like 5:30 when we got that kind of news, and I covered like $1.80, made like 35 grand. It was like that's the most memorable, like way significantly biggest trade.
Notice these are like informational inefficiencies where these are scams. They're up for the wrong reasons. It's also not just stocks that do this. There's also Goldman Research, which tries to make themselves look like Goldman Sachs, but they're not Goldman Sachs. They're just Goldman Research. So, be very careful with these kinds of things because they do crash. How about you, Mari?
I feel like for me, I don't really have like a huge gain that I remember in the beginning.
It could be $100. It doesn't have to be huge dollar-wise. It could just be for you.
Yeah.
What made it click?
When it was December of 2020, and that was when I had practiced the panic to buy over and over and over again, and then I was able to profit maybe like 50,000 on the month, which was my biggest month so far. I only had like 10K months before then, so that was really when it just felt like it clicked, and I just kind of like understood what I was doing, and that to me was so meaningful because it also gave me the confidence to size up, and I was like, okay, I feel like I know the strategy so well after I had taken losses and gains, and I just kept consistently growing it. So that was pretty much like a turning point for me because I just felt really comfortable, and I just knew that I had to keep doing it over and over, and that's when we had, the really good market. So, I mean, it really helped a lot.
Those dip buys on TSNP, TNZC.
Yep, OZSC.
OZSC! Who remembers that? Raise your hand. Oh, God, those were beautiful. Every time they bounce so perfectly. Why can't we get that? Why is the Dow down 400? What's going on? Pretty crazy. Bryce.
I feel like my most memorable trades, which generally were some of the biggest, normally come after a rough period for me, and that 2 of them had happened just like that. But the first one that I really remember wasn't really one trade. It was one day. I haven't really had that many big trades. My biggest trade's like $30,000 on AHPI, which was memorable, but at that point I'd already been growing a bit. That first $1,000 day for me though was probably the most memorable part of my trading journey. And it was end of July in 2021. And I was really starting to size up because that was when I was coming out of that really small $2 risk, trying to work my way up. And earlier in that month, I was on a really good hot streak, sizing up, and then I just lost like 3 or 4 days in a row, full-size losses, and just recentered for about a week or so. Took another week to regain that consistency, and at the end of the month, I was starting to push that size again, trading correctly. It was going from my $500, $600 day, $700 day, and basically 1 or 2 days before the end of the month, it finally happened, $1,000, and it was a couple of trades. It was definitely near the end of the day, but I will never forget that feeling. You know what I mean? It's a good thing to work towards an accomplishment, but also that took me almost 3 years, 2.5, 3 years to have my first $1,000 day. So I think it's good to just keep small, and you'll remember those really monumental days or trades when you keep growing.
Beautiful. All right, we're going to do speed round real quick. We're going to do short answers. We're going to do quick to the point. Give them maximum information, minimum time. Ready? Hold up the microphones. This is going to be quick. One lesson, one rule to rule them all. What is it?
Process over profits.
Kyle.
Focus. Yeah.
No, next.
Manage your risk.
Keep losses as small as you can.
Cut losses quickly.
Consistency.
Beautiful. What's the biggest mistake that you make and that you see other traders make?
Revenge trading.
Squeezing water out of a rock.
Not understanding what pattern has actual edge.
Being too biased.
What are you going to do tonight in Vegas?
Party.
Hey! Is that for everybody or is that just Mari?
Sure.
Yeah, party it out.
What do you think everyone should take away from this conference? What should they do this weekend to help them in their journey? One thing.
Keep talking to other traders. Keep learning from them.
Yeah, figure where you are in your journey and where you need to go next. Figuring out what you don't know to what you do need to know.
Don't get overly excited seeing people succeed.
Get motivated.
Give a round of applause to all these guys and girls. How amazing was that Q&A? They are so honest about their journey. They're not trying to brag. They have their head on their shoulders, much better than I had my head on my shoulders, which was like way off my shoulders when I made my first million. They're so level-headed and even-keeled, and it makes me so proud, not just the money that they've made, but just everything that they're doing in life. These 4 students combined to nearly $20 million in profits. It's crazy to think about when they're all in their early 20s, but this is what's possible. Again, click the link below if you want to apply for my challenge. Be dedicated. It doesn't matter if you're in your early 20s. I have older students too. They just don't talk so publicly about it because they have, wives and ex-wives and jobs. But you can be any age, and I love meeting my older students too. The whole key is, are you dedicated enough? Watch this Q&A again. Watch other videos on my YouTube channel. Just get motivated and be dedicated.